Hello everyone, my name is Priscilla Takala and I will be starting our presentation. Health and social care organizations often operate in complex and high pressure environments, and it's not a secret that when leadership and governance fail, the consequences can be devastating. The Shrewsbury maternity scandal is a strong example of this because over many years, poor leadership, weak decision making, resistance to cultural change, and inadequate systems has contributed a lot to unsafe care for mothers and babies. In today's presentation, our group will examine first what happened at the Strawberry and Telford Hospital NHS Trust. Next, we are going to identify the leadership and management failures that contributed to the scandal. Finally, we will present some recommendations aimed at improving safety, culture, and accountability in maternity services. Let's give some context. The trust experienced repeated failures in maternity safety, leading to the death of more than 300 babies and causing life altering harm, including brain injuries to many others. The Occasion Review revealed that there were long standing problems like insufficient staffing, inadequate monitoring of risk, and a lack of effective leadership. Concerns raised by families and staff were often overlooked or minimized, allowing the same mistakes to occur over and over again. These failures not only caused enormous suffering but also severely damaged public trust in the organization and highlighted major weaknesses in maternity care systems. It's obvious that leadership failures were central to the scandal. There were significant weaknesses in governance, and leaders failed to build a culture where staff felt psychologically safe to speak up. Staff did not feel encouraged or supported to maintain good practice, and this contributed to inconsistent care and a breakdown of communication. Families reported that the environment felt stressful, unresponsive, and at times dismissive. This poor culture affected both the workforce and the experiences of patients who were often left without compassion and without proper support during vulnerable moments. Another major leadership issue was the lack of visibility and responsiveness from senior clinicians and managers, and also warning signs were repeatedly missed. Patterns of risk were not properly investigated, and incidents were often downplayed instead of escalated. One of the most concerning findings was that the organization failed to acknowledge or learn from mistakes. Without accountability and honest reflection, the same failures continued for years. Overall, these leadership weaknesses created unsafe conditions, contributed to preventable harm, and prevented the trust from making improvements when they were most needed. That concludes my introduction and overview of the case, including the leadership failures that contributed to the scandal. But it also opens the way for a deeper examination of the systemic issues behind these failures. I'm now pleased to introduce my classmate Kesha, who will talk about the management and structural issues that further shape the failures within the trust, and then outline the strategic vision proposed to improve safety and organizational culture. Kesha, over to you, please. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kasia, and I'm going to focus on what the case shows about government, leadership failures, workforce problems, and most importantly, the strategic vision that is needed to move on. Let's start with how government fails to work. The Shrewsbury case shows a problem that happens everywhere in the company. It looks like the management system that had a hard time meeting the most basic rules for governance. This was not just a matter of slow processes or information that was missing. It had real effects on patients and their families. The roads for escalation were delayed, which meant that when patients needed immediate care, the system was not ready to help. And the different areas of medicine that they are based on did not work well, which led to dangerous breaks in care. Families were worried and said so. They talked about how there was no trust or compassion and how follow up care services didn't seem like they were ready to help them. This was not just an emotional reaction, it showed that there were problems with the staff, like they were not trained really well, there was not enough people working, and the nursing clinical teams were stretched too thin or were not ready for what they had to do. All of these flows together made things less efficient and safe for patients. Let's talk about lack of supervision and structural issues. If we look deeper, the scandal also brought to light the way the company was set up and how that led to the serious problems. One of the main things that went wrong was ward planning. Instead of senior staff members leading and overseeing care, junior staff members were often left with unfair amount of duty. There was also a lack of extra help, meaning that there were not any staff members whose only job was to step back, monitor, and make sure that care was safe and consistent. The maternity governance team, which was supposed to be in charge of quality and performance, was itself run badly. As a result, important activities such as quality improvement and ongoing performance tracking were not taking place. Even after things went wrong, the audit and review processes didn't have the management control they needed to find problems, learn from them, and in consequence make changes. Because no one was held responsible, problems continued for a long time. Let's move to the plan for safer, more caring maternity care. What does a meaningful answer look like? The case suggests a new way of looking at things, one that puts safety, compassion, and a better maternity care setting that reacts quickly first. To make this vision a reality, everyone must work together better, from managers to frontline staff, across different clinical roles, and throughout the whole company. By working together, we can all get better care, talk to each other more easily, and make sure that problems are dealt with quickly. This strategic vision also focuses on making the strengths of the organization even better. This means giving leadership groups more power, putting money into strong worker training, and then making sure that employees have the skills and confidence they need to deal with the issues of the future. If the right people, structures, and the mindset are in place, maternity care can go from dealing with crises as they happen to a safe, proactive, and patient centered system. The Shrewsbury maternity scandal is a clear example of what can go wrong when there is not enough oversight, guidance, and support for staff. But it also shows how to make things better. It urges the building of maternity services where compassion, safety, and accountability are at the heart. Thank you for hearing me out. The next thing we are going to talk about are solutions, and Annette will present it.
Hello, my name is Annette, and in this part of the presentation, I'll be discussing quality improvement and leadership approaches in response to the Shrewsbury maternity scandal. This section explains how the PDSA quality improvement model can be used to address the leadership and management failures identified in the case. The plan stage involves identifying key issues within the trust, particularly poor escalation protocols, lack of staff training, and weakness in leadership oversight. These issues were highlighted in the Oakenden Review and contributed to unsafe maternity care. The do stage focuses on implementing pilot interventions such as simulation-based training for midwives and clinicians, revising care processes, and strengthen incident reporting system so staff feel confident to raise concerns. The study stage involves evaluating the effectiveness of these interventions through staff feedback, clinical audits, and patient safety data. Finally, the act stage ensures that successful changes are embedded into everyday practice, refined where necessary, and continuously monitored to support long-term improvement in care quality. Leadership failure also resulted in serious reputational and financial consequences for Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital NHS Trust. The trust was ordered to pay over $1.3 million due to poor maternity care, which significantly damaged public confidence. To prevent future reputational harm, strong and transparent leadership is required. This includes improving governance systems, increasing accountability at senior leadership levels, fostering a culture of openness, and responding compassionately to families. Investing in workforce development and strengthening incident reporting systems are essential steps in rebuilding trust and ensuring safety maternity services. In addition, adopting transformational leadership approach can support long-term improvement by improving organizational culture and promoting compassionate, patient-centered care. Transformational leadership focuses on inspiring and motivating staff through idealized influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individual consideration. Within maternity services, this leadership style encourages staff to speak up about safety concerns, improves teamwork, and help rebuild trust between clinicians, patients, and families. By adopting transformational leadership, the trust can enhance staff morale, strengthen decisions making, and promote high-quality care, supporting sustainable organizational recovery. Thank you guys for listening. I will now hand over the next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Brigidas Menezes. Today, I'm going to speak to you about developing the workforce and providing adequate training to staff. Another solution is to enhance the incident reporting and governance that help to frequently resolve the concerns of patients and families in support of the transformational aspects. In this context, the institution can centralize the digital report system and the implementation of quotas change model to create the urgency of proposed solutions and facilitate the successful implementation. This directly manages the concerns of users and facilitates satisfaction. In terms of developing the workforce and providing training, the trust can use the code's experimental model that suggests the integration of simulation based training. This solution can help to maintain the competencies and collaborative nature of the staff to address the patient's needs. The progression of the staff computers is through the training, which could maintain an efficient and decision making environment that addresses the requirements of patients and facilitates safer care. I would like to conclude with the Shrewsbury maternity scandal. The Shrewsbury maternity scandal is one of the examples of the failure of health and social care institutions towards offering culturally competent and efficient care that has compromised the health of mothers and babies. Based on this problem, the strategic vision suggested facilitating governance and compassionate care by introducing the PDSA model. The proposed solution involves the improvement of leadership and institutional culture, incident reporting, and workforce development through the training approaches. Thank you for listening to me.